Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Tuesday, just like September 11th once happened on a Tuesday. Tuesday, named after Mars, the god of war. Dick Cheney, a major warmonger, once the Secretary of Defense, and of course the Vice President when Uncle Numbnuts was supposedly the president. And don't forget, Dick Cheney was the Secretary of Defense when Papa Bush was the president of the United States. But yeah, he has died at the fateful age of 84. This could have been the latest chapter in a George Orwell novel. It was never more Orwellian than the Bush administration. Again, everything was doublespeak. And actually, you know what? I mean, maybe since then, everything's become doublespeak. But at that time, it was something else. So let's see what they did to old Dick, who had to die on the 11th anniversary of the opening of the One World Trade Center. They're saying he died yesterday, November 3rd. One World Trade Center has been open for 11 years. Never forget when Papa Bush was the 11th director of the CIA, or when he became president, he gave that speech about a new world order, a world freer a tear. He gave it September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day of the attack in the 11th state on the 11th of the month, where the buildings came down in a controlled demolition that looked just like an 11. It all started with flight AA-11. Again, it's all by the numbers, and we're going to see just how 11 Dick Cheney's passing is. And comically, here we are in the 11th month, November, where the week began, or I should say the month, the new leader of Syria, who replaced Bashar al-Assad, who had a September 11th birthday, but the new leader of Syria, who's former Al-Qaeda, he's going to visit the White House this week. You mean to tell me Dick Cheney, who led the war on terror against Al-Qaeda, he dies the week that an Al-Qaeda is coming to the White House? You don't see the joke here? Again, it's sad how dense the American people are. It's sad how inept the American people are. It's sad they haven't seen through this shit show for the decades and decades it's been going on. Again, like when these clowns took the White House back in 2001. George W. Bush became the 43rd president thanks to Florida, where his brother was the 43rd governor, like their daddy was the 43rd vice president. All this stuff starts to make even way more sense once you learn Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, which Freemasonry is based in Kabbalah. And we're going to see just how Masonic today's death ritual is as well. But here, let's go through this. Let's see what they did to old Dick. As I said, one less Dick in the world. So they're saying he died yesterday. And again, it was the 11th anniversary of opening of One World Trade Center. By the way, you know how they say all roads lead to Rome? Did you see what happened in Rome yesterday? How a building collapsed in Italy? Did you see that? A building collapsed in Italy yesterday. One of the big international headlines on the anniversary of the opening of the World Trade Center. Yeah. Okay. And don't forget, you guys, do you remember after how, September 11th happened, and then on March 11th, the other 113 date, they did the tribute in light with the big purple beams to represent the World Trade Centers. Remember that? March 11th, 2002, the tribute in light. And then for years after, they would do it every day on that anniversary. But yeah, get a load of this. Richard Cheney, right? That's his actual name. Most of us know him as Dick. Of course, Dick's a nickname for Richards, but Richard Cheney, 121, right? Well, 121 has a square root of 11. Look at what day of George W. Bush's age it was that he kicked the bucket. 121. And what just wrapped up? Was it the 121st World Series? And I'm sure you remember how the World Series tied in with old September 11th. The Yankees went to the World Series. They upset Seattle that year, who had the best record in baseball. Seattle and New York. Of course, Seattle, it's really actually important to September 11th. The man who designed the building was a Japanese American from Seattle. He was like a kamikaze, like the buildings came down after the kamikaze pilots that defied physics and all other things possible. Again, I think everybody should convert to Islam. If you believe the official 9/11 story, you should definitely convert to Islam, because that was a miracle upon a miracle upon a miracle. Planes can't fly at 700 miles per hour at that low altitude. They catch on fire and disintegrate. Also, those pilots couldn't even fly Cessnas, but they come, I mean, I don't want to get into it. But anyway, on the 121st day of Bush's age, Richard Cheney's dead. And, Bush, remember George W., Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump, all born in 46, shortly before the CIA was established. You can guarantee they were all chosen as children and groomed for the Oval Office for all of the rigged selections that they all benefited from. But yeah, 121. We've been talking about that a lot with all the deaths connected to the 121st World Series. And I'd say Dick Cheney's probably also connected. Again, as I always say, the world of sports, the world of the Oval Office, it's all connected. Just like how Trump was in Japan as Ohtani's bombing away in the World Series, not to mention the 121st World Series ended on the 121st day of Ohtani's age. But yeah, and speaking of kamikazes, right, there's probably something to that. And I told you got to watch out for Pearl Harbor Day this year. That's coming up too. But yeah, how perfect, right? Did we got it so far? Blood sacrifice 121. It's hard to feel bad for Dick because think of all the blood on his hands. Think of all the dead people from the lies he told. Woo! We're talking about bodies on bodies, possibly over 1 million bodies. I mean, the death numbers from the War on Terror, it's a huge range of deaths. You have no idea what it really is because we're living in an Orwellian nightmare where we're lied to by the authorities every day. This man could have over 1 million bodies from his lies on his hands. Now, notice, again, if you're new here, Gematria, there's 4 base ciphers. It's very simple. They're all based on the alphabetic order. Again, it's a practice that goes back to Babylon, the practice of coding numbers into words. This first cipher we're looking at is the most simple. A, B, C is 1, 2, 3. That's where Richard Cheney. R would be the 18th letter. I, the 9th. C, the 3rd. H, the 8th. You just add up the letters, 121. Simple. The next cipher to know is the alphabetic order with numerology applied. The next cipher to know is just running the alphabetic order in reverse. Z is 1 back to A is 26. And the next is the reverse alphabetic order with numerology applied. So we're going to hit those things in this presentation. Notice Richard Cheney equals 76 and 68. This is with numerology applied. Like vice president equals 68 and 76. Remember, the World Trade Center's construction began in 68. The same year 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. His president was born on 7/6. Don't forget Skull and Bones equals 76 either, just like Papa Bush and George W. Bush are both members of Skull and Bones. And don't forget that Skull and Bones is literally modeled after the Illuminati, which was established in 1776, just before the American Revolution. And it goes with the One World Trade Center being 1,776 feet tall. As for measuring from Dick's birthday to his death, he died 277 days after his birthday, which is an interesting number. That's the 59th prime number. George W. Bush also has the 59 connection. 59 is the 17th prime. He was the 17th Secretary of Defense. And the day he died had 59 date numerology. His daughter is 59 years old right now. Liz Cheney, 59. Quite interesting. For the record, if you write out the United States of America, it equals 99. He's dead 99 days after his daughter's birthday. The United States of America was named that on September 9th in history, 9/9. If you drop the from it and just do United States of America, it's 84, like his age of death. And the day he died, November 3rd, it's the day leaving 58 days in the year. You could also say it's the first of the last 59 days of the year because there's 58 days that come after. So it's either the first of the last 59 days of the year or it's the day leaving 58 days left in the year. Just take a look at how Freemasonry and George W. Bush both equate to 58 and 59. Again, Washington, D.C. is known as the Masonic City. Of course, Freemasonry venerates that number 33. Like how from 1968, when the construction began on the World Trade Center and 911 was made the national emergency dialing code until 2001, that was 33 years later. Don't forget Boeing out of Seattle. Seattle's super connected. That was the year they debuted their jumbo jetliners. All the planes supposedly on 9/11 were Boeings. But remember, the first image of a plane hitting the tower, it was a computer glitch. It showed the plane fly all the way through the tower. It came out with the nose intact, and the screen cut to black. which should tell you everything you need to know really about the supposed planes on 9/11. And if you don't know that, you haven't taken advantage of the internet. And if you don't know that that's an absolute fact, that the first plane was a computer image and a total load of shit, again, you're not using the information age and you don't really know what's going on in the world because the lies were that bad that day. Remember, all the initial reports that day were bombs were going off. That's why the huge explosions were going outward and the building and stuff inside it was flying outward. This is one of the men who helped protect those lies that got us involved in a war based on nothing but lies. And then all that came out of it was more and more lies. And now almost all the liars from that event are dead and there'll be no justice, including Bernard Carrig, who died not that long ago, who supposedly found the 19 terrorist passports down in the rubble. The same rubble where they found no planes or bodies or black boxes.
Like, no, I remember it was like 10 years later or something, they supposedly found part of the wheel on another tower a mile away.
It's like, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, it must have happened then. But yeah, there's Dick dead at 84 in the Orwellian United States of America, 84. Remember who really runs this nation? The Jesuit order, which equals 84. They serve the Catholic Church, 84. Jesuit alone, 84. Since he worked under Papa Bush first, it's also 144 days from Papa Bush's birthday anniversary, like Jesuit order in the United States of America are also 144. And then get a load of this. From the Trump administration taking office until the death is exactly 41 weeks, like USA's 41, like September 11th happened on a 41 date numerology, like Al-Qaeda equals 41. And again, that's the story this week. The new leader of Syria, who replaced the guy with the 9/11 birthday, he's going to be visiting Trump at the White House. So Al-Qaeda is at the White House this week, the week that Dick Cheney's dead, when Al-Qaeda is also 41. Today's 1,260 weeks since September 11th happened, because again, they saved the news for a Tuesday, like it happened on a Tuesday. And in light of the Secretary of Defense, remember Pete Hegseth, he was nominated on the Superior General's birthday. That's AKA the Black Pope, AKA the leader of the Jesuit order. Superior General equals 84, just like the Jesuit order, like Jesuit. But Hegseth with the Templar tattoos on his chest, George W. Bush and Papa Bush were both in skull and bones, which gets its symbolism from the Templars. The Templars, their logo is in the middle of the Jesuit order's logo. The Jesuits are the modern-day Templars. The Templars were the Crusaders. George W. Bush referred to what we did in the Middle East after 9/11 as a crusade. Notice today's 150 days after Hegseth's birthday, because again, Dick Cheney was once upon a time the Secretary of Defense, but 150 days. The word Illuminati is 150. Dick Cheney was also the vice president. Today's 93 days after J.D. Vance's birthday. Order of Illuminati 93, Illuminati 150. These numbers get paired a lot in rituals. They have to do with the object that illuminates the world, the sun, which is 150 million kilometers away on average, or 93 million miles. Don't forget 93 World Trade Center bombing, Flight 93. Don't forget that Dick Cheney left the White House with Papa Bush in 93, right before the World Trade Center bombing. J.D. Vance went to Yale, like the Bushes. See how it all comes together? If we don't count the span of days, because Dick Cheney did die on the 121st day of George W. Bush's age, but if we don't count the span, we could also say he died 120 days after his birthday. Illuminati is also 120. Again, he's a Skull and Bones member, which is literally modeled after the Illuminati. 120 is the 15th triangular number. The Illuminati was founded on the first day of the 5th month, like 15. Skull and Bones allows 15 members per year. Again, it's not hard to see what really runs your nation. And for all the people out there, they're like, Illuminati, this is dumb. No, you're dumb. You know why you're dumb? Because George Washington wrote a letter that's in the National Archive that your dumbass could look up and see that he was concerned about the Illuminati taking over Freemasonry, other important sectors of society, and infiltrating government and educational institutions. And that was back in the 1700s, dumbass. So anyway, And yeah, it is important to talk that way because I wasn't born yesterday and I know how these losers in this nation are.
Illuminati? Weirdo. That's so dumb. Illuminati, huh?
No, it's not dumb, moron. It's a historical fact, moron. It was founded right before this nation broke away and became a nation, moron. What do you think's been running it the whole time, moron? By the way, the Illuminati was founded by a Jesuit. Do you know how long the Jesuit suppression lasted? Oh, it lasted 41 years. Don't you think that's weird that the USA was formed in that time and 41's the 13th prime and this nation's all about 13? Have you ever thought about that? 13 stripes, 13 colonies, 13 years of slave school, making you dumber and dumber each year and more indoctrinated. Do the little dummies they're raising up in school learn about any of the secret societies? They learn about what really happened on 9/11? Do they even talk about the initial stuff? Do they ever examine? Shouldn't we have classrooms where it's like, listen, kids, do we think this is a true story here? Let's watch the original footage of the plane hitting the tower. Is it possible for a plane to fly this fast, this low, to fly all the way through the tower and come out the other side with the nose intact? Or is this a total load of shit? You got to be dumb if you don't know the answers to those questions because they're all, no, that's impossible. That's also impossible. That's also impossible. Does this look like a perfect demolition the way these buildings came down? How did they turn to dust in midair? Well, a plane hit him. Well, did the Empire State Building come down when the plane hit it? Did that happen? When the plane hit the Empire State Building, did the whole building come down and turn into a pile of dust? No, it didn't. And funny enough, that was all the foreshadowing for what was going to come all those years later. Here, let me pull that up real quick. Let's pull up the ritual at the Empire State Building. Let me see. Let me see if this will pull it up here. Hold on. Shoot. We're going to pull it up. It is important. Here we go. Here we go. You know what's funny? That plane hit the tower on what day is now Liz Cheney's birthday. How interesting. Liz Cheney's got that July 28th birthday. The sitting pope at the time, it happened 149 days after his birthday. Again, Skull and Bones is 149. It matters because Skull and Bones gets their symbolism from the Templars, and the Templars protected the Pope. And again, Skull and Bones is modeled after the Illuminati, which is founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, who also served the Pope. They're the military order of the Pope. But notice July 28th, 209th day of the year, Empire State Building. The day the Empire State Building got crashed into was the 209th day of the year. It's the day leaving 156 days left in the year, like 9/11 is the 156th prime. Or Vatican Hill, Tisha B'Av, Al-Qaeda terrorist attack, jihadist division. They're all 9/11 in this cipher. By the way, that cipher, the word Freemason is 307. Dick Cheney dead on the 307th day of the year. That's the 63rd prime. Terrorism equals 63. It happened in 45, and it happened 45 days before the anniversary, or 45 days before September 11th. Think about that. And of course, the guy who's now president, who's 47 and previously was number 45, he was a big part of 9/11. He introduced conspiracy theories to that day. He was worried about his insurance firm on the 102nd floor. If you go back and watch the footage, which is interesting, 102, because Al-Qaeda equals 102 in this cipher, just like how they simulated the 9/11 attack the federal government did with Operation Amalgam Virgo 102 days before 9/11 happened, June 1st, 2001. So, yeah, there's some other information here that also matters, but I just want to remind that planes can hit buildings and they don't just turn into dust. Only on 9/11 did 3 steel frame buildings collapse from fires, and only 2 of them were hit by planes. Don't forget Building 7 that fell 7 hours later in the day. It was called the Solomon's Brothers Building, like Solomon's Temple, which is where Freemasonry's secrets are based. I can't read all this, but anyway, it says Dick Cheney, America's most powerful modern vice president and chief architect of the war on terror, who helped lead the country into the ill-fated Iraq war on faulty assumptions, has died, according to a statement from his family. He was 84. Remember, Rumsfeld, his accomplice, who was the Secretary of Defense then, he was so certain there were weapons of mass destruction, and he knew they were in the areas north, south, east, and west of Baghdad. All lies. His beloved wife of 60, and that's why our government's really set up the way it is. So every 4 years, they can bring in a new set of liars, and then everyone can point the finger. His beloved wife of 61 years, remember Washington, D.C. equals 61, Lynn, his daughters, Liz and Mary, and other family members were with him as he passed. You know what? I didn't look at how it might line up with his wife, since these guys were all in arranged marriages, and stuff is this planned out. Let's see. Lynn Cheney. She's also 84, born in 41, the year that Pearl Harbor happened. Funny, her birthday is one day before the Jesuit Order's birthday. It looks like it would have been 81 days after her birthday. The old ritual number. Yeah, 81 days. Ritual 81 forwards and backwards. President Trump 81. Trump's got Al-Qaeda at the White House for the week of Dick Cheney's death. Let me see some about what Dick Cheney might have been up to in 1981. He's been with the federal government for so long. He became the chair of the House Republican Policy Committee in 81. Yeah, long history there in the White House. From Lincoln, Nebraska. You know, him dying at 84, I'm sure, ties in with that as well. Abraham Lincoln, the man who saved the United States, has that 84 connection, just for the record. Also 60, like he was elected in 1860. 1860 and 1960 elections led to assassinations, like we told you way before the Trump hoax happened. The 60th election would be full of assassinations. Charlie Kirk's 60 weeks after the Trump hoax. They both look like hoaxes. They don't load injured people into SUVs, which was the case for both Trump and Charlie. Yeah, he was the 46th vice president, too. Made him ripe for a sacrifice at some point. And kept this guy could have died decades ago, Dick Cheney. He probably had at least 46 heart replacements. So they kept him ticking like a wind-up toy until just the right day, the week that Al-Qaeda comes to the White House. Just can't get enough of it. Cheney was in the White House with the president out of town on the crisp, clear morning of September 11, 2001. In the split second of horror when a second hijacked plane hit the World Trade Center in New York, he said he became a changed man, determined to avenge the Al-Qaeda orchestrated attacks and to enforce U.S. power throughout the Middle East with a neoconservative doctrine of regime change and preemptive war. Don't forget that whole administration came in with a document called, Jesus, it's been so long. What was it called? Now I can't remember what the damn document's called. Project for a New American Century. That's what it was called. And it called for a Pearl Harbor-like event to catapult a war in the Middle East. Can you believe that? An administration comes in with a document saying they need a new Pearl Harbor so that they can go back to war in the Middle East and finish up what Papa Bush didn't back when Dick Cheney was the Secretary of Defense. And then not even a year into the administration, what do you know? What do you know? On a sunny day, on the day leaving 111 days left in the year in New York, on 9/11 when it all came together in 68. And don't forget, we just saw that Dick Cheney's name got the 68, like CIA, like Papa Bush was the 11th director of the CIA, and he was back working for the CIA back in 68. That's why they got to have all these fake elections and keep everybody all invested in the shit show. And Dick's got his feet up on the desk watching the attack, looking relaxed as ever. So he said, we've been planning for this for decades. That monitor he had up there, that must have been state of the art at the time, man. Did he have a flat screen in 2000? Is that about when they were starting to come out? I remember when the flat computer screens were first starting to come out. They were expensive as hell. They were like $2,000. Hardly anybody had them. The first one I knew that got one was my brother-in-law. He made a lot of money, though. He was a doctor. It might have been around that time. I remember the Alicia Keys song Fallen being out when they had that flat screen. When did that song come out? Alicia Keys, Fallen. Don't forget. Yeah, it did come out in 2001. Oh, I guess it was a year for Fallen. I guess it was about that time. You remember the Michael Douglas movie, Falling Down? That movie came out the day of the 93 World Trade Center bombing. Talk about predictive programming. And don't forget, in that movie, he's blaming Asians for inflation in a market that has Corona up on a street sign inside the store. Corona. Like after Corona, the chump printed all the money, and now we got the crazy inflation, and he points the finger at Biden, who also printed a lot of money. They're all in on it together. Inflation doesn't hurt the super rich because it only makes their assets worth more. Meanwhile, everybody who has nothing, they can't afford anything. I was thinking about with all the AI and the replacement of jobs and the announcement that Amazon's on the verge of laying off millions of people because they got robots that can pack the boxes in the warehouses. You know, it's a sign of the times. I was like, what kind of jobs will there be for people? And then right as I'm asking that, Trump's thinking about going to war in Africa. I'm like, that's going to be the future. That just like the only job is to be a mercenary for, you know, the New World Order killing force, which we call the U.S. and the Pentagon. The only job will be to go kill some brown people wherever they say you need to go kill brown people. And it'll always be in the name of religion, just like Trump said he was watching Fox News and he saw that they were hurting the Christians in Africa, so he's ready to go to war. How about just everybody drop the religion, drop the politics, all the bullshit you believe in, because it is all bullshit. And if you don't know that, it's because your head's full of bullshit and you're drowning in bullshit. You don't know how to escape the bullshit. But if everybody could just escape the bullshit, their bullshit wouldn't work anymore. You wouldn't be motivated to be like, oh, yeah, I'm in this religious cow herd, so let me go with that. Oh, I'm in this religious political cow herd, so let me go with that. I mean, if you just would stop with all this bullshit, none of this stuff they do would work. It just wouldn't work. Dick Cheney bled keeping America free after 9/11 attacks. What bleeding did Dick Cheney do? He never fought in a war in his life. He sent a lot of people to war. Isn't it gross just like turning on the TV and people are gushing over Dick Cheney? Do you remember what this guy looked like every time he was on TV? Every time he had that same face, like a dog with rabies. Hey, everywhere you looked. His brown, ugly, nasty teeth snarling. What the hell's wrong with this guy? This guy's a demon. And he was. I mean, make no mistake about it. Thank you, Ethan Nolan. He said, I'm surprised you didn't cover the Breeders' Cup. Easy. I did. I did cover it, Ethan. You know, shout out to Big Al. I guess I covered it more privately with Big Al, but I put out before Game 7 of the World Series why the Breeders' Cup, again, for people who don't know about the Breeders' Cup, for the first time ever, the Japanese horse won, which was my assumption. I thought the Japanese horse would win the main event, which was the 9th race of the day, just as the Dodgers would go on to win the 9th World Series, led by Dave Roberts, born in Japan, with his staff of superstar Japanese players from Otani to Yamamoto to the other reliever. But, yeah, the horse that won, you guys, Forever Young, Japanese horse, first time. 171, right? That's the 18th triangular number. 72. This horse has the same birthday as Rojas, number 72, hit the game-tying home run in the 9th as the 9th hitter, as the Dodgers went on to win their 9th World Series. Again, Dodgers 72, Toronto 72. Do you know how many runs the Dodgers scored in the postseason? They scored 72 for the record. But yeah, just going back through it. Forever Young, 153. Dodgers picked up their 153rd win in the postseason. Don't forget, Jesuit Orders got a lot of those numbers too. 54, 72, 153, the people running the show. Jesuits have been in Japan longer than the U.S. has existed. And then that 5-4 should stand out because in that same cipher, so was baseball, and that was the score of the game, 5-4. Dodgers, I believe they outscored Toronto by 9 runs. I have to go back and check my notes, but we thought it was going to be a 9-run game, and it was. So, yeah, no, I did cover it. And by the way, it was the 42nd Breeders' Cup, like Japan's 42, like Jackie's 42, and Breeders' Cup equals 53, like the World Series began on the 53rd death anniversary of Jackie Robinson as the Dodgers picked up the 53rd win for the National League. Remember, Los Angeles is 53 also. On the eve of the World Series, the Chargers became 5-3 to start Week 8. The World Series extended into NFL Week 9 as they picked up the 9th World Series title, all scripted together. Again, I covered all this if you missed it, how they synced up the NHL games and everything, paid tribute to the 93 Stanley Cup and World Series on the day of Game 7. The Chargers' brother ended up dead on 69th Street. That was announced the day of the World Series as Dave Roberts got his 69th postseason win. The Mariners pitcher supposedly had a heart attack in his car and died. His name also equaled 69, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it was covered. It was covered. Japan to win the Breeders' Cup for the first time ever, and it landed. Thanks again, Dale. Appreciate it, man. And Dale, I saw what you sent me on PayPal as well. Thank you very much once again, friend. You are super generous. Thank you. Smeed with the big 20. Or actually, the big 2. Thank you, Smeed. Smeed 20 with the big 2. Thank you. And Parlay 30 with the big 2. Thank you. Yeah, Forever Young's odds were 7-2 as well. Yeah, exactly. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. It's all one big script, you guys. It's all one big script. I don't know how many times I can tell it to you. I better wrap it up here. I got to go back and help with Sweet Girl for the morning routine. But yeah, one less dick in the world. Wow, I'm surprised Fox News already took down the Dick Cheney as the top headline. Man, Dick, what did you do wrong, buddy? Yeah, it is election time, too, in New York, huh? As Dick kicks the bucket. But wow, I'm surprised. Fox News. Remember Fox News, founded by Republican strategists just before George W. Bush became president? They were the news network that reversed. All the news media had declared Al Gore the winner. Even Fox News did initially, but then 30 minutes later they said, well, wait a minute. In Florida, where his brother's the 43rd governor, it actually could be a different outcome. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe Bush is the president. And then sure enough, Supreme Court intervenes, stops the recount. Supreme Court effectively decides the election. CNN. You guys thought CNN was the liberal network, but here they are, still paying tribute to the Dick. Remember, it was Dick and Bush, too, you guys. I mean, Dick and Bush. You don't think this is all one big mockery? Even MSNBC still has Dick up at the top. There's no better way to get the approval ratings up than to have Al-Qaeda at the White House. Let's see. Is the BBC got Dick up? A loss to the nation. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. A loss to the nation. Anybody feel like their life's lacking this morning? A loss to the nation. Jesus. Okay. Now I've seen it all. We'll leave it there for now, True Seeker. Thanks to everyone who hits the like and the share. And for all you guys who just can't pull your head out of your ass, make today the day you finally do it. Till next time.